Hello, world. This is a manlet named Joshua Tree, surname Special. This is my 2 cents about Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and like the reason why I want to play it is Link's not left-handed, and I was anticipating a game where Linkle was the star, not femboy Link. Breath of the Wild is at most 7 out of 10. Now, the biggest disappointment about Breath of the Wild is the horse/mount combat is severely limited, and I think that was the reason why they didn't focus enough on the horse combat. They had to focus so much on Link's armor and clothing attributes. Like, there's a lot of like armor stats and boots and boosting with and it's just like so disappointing. It's like the most disappointing I ever been when I saw Breath of the Wild was gonna be the swan song for the Wii U and a launch title for the Switch. It was like, god damn it. And they had a classic right there in front of them. And like the bare minimum was the gameplay sensibility of Majora's Mask. And less obvious, but equally important, the world building approach of Quest 64. It's like 2 games, Quest 64 and Majora's Mask. The world building of Quest 64 would make the best Zelda. Like, just the world building, not necessarily anything about the the gameplay, but maybe a little bit elements from the gameplay mixed with Majora's Mask, but not necessarily that time limit. Like, that time limit isn't necessarily what made Majora's Mask so great. It just had more tighter controls than Ocarina of Time. It was disappointing because you can become adult Link in it, or couldn't play the whole game as adult Link, but it was a perfect game for what it was at the time. And it was a brilliant sequel to Zelda Ocarina of Time, which, like, Skyward Sword, I like Skyward Sword way better than Breath of the Wild. In order for me to buy Breath of the Wild, in order for me to want to get Breath of the Wild to play it, is for it to be a masterpiece on its own, up against a masterpiece that I think is only in my mind. But I feel like if they made a flat-chested female, Linkle, and made Linkle the star, they would have been more focused on making the NPCs more iconic, and they would focus on more iconic weapons besides just the Master Sword. And Breath of the Wild, I could tell just by looking at the videos of gameplay and just looking at it, there's no high dynamic range. Climbing does not count as high dynamic range. I like the verticality of Breath of the Wild, but it just seems like something suspicious about it. It's like somebody must have commissioned Breath of the Wild for me, but maybe I'm delusional, but it's not what I want to play. It's not my ideal Zelda. And like, basically, that's all I got to say about Breath of the Wild. And like, Breath of the Wild to me is far from a classic, up against a game that I wish they made, and I see it right there. Female Linkle, flat-chested and all, can be androgynous, make her a tomboy, so you wouldn't really miss much. Make her ambidextrous, meaning you could either be left-handed or right-handed, and like have more animations for the weapons. If you gotta have less variety with weapons, to focus on animations that are specific to whatever weapon you might be using, and like make it subtle, even if you have to have less variety with clothing options, because the clothing options right there is what brings it, like excessive clothing options and armor sets and all that shit, like the stats are based around the armors, the weapon durability issue. It gets egregious because of what Zelda was before. You didn't have to deal with like breaking weapons and all that shit. And like, I get it. I mean, that's a good idea, step in the right direction. But like, Twilight Princess had way more weapon animations than Breath of the Wild, and like, there's so many weapon options and lacking and recycled everything, and I was like, I don't like it. Oh well. I hope one day they make that Zelda video game. I wish they would.
Breath of the Wild is a climbing simulator. If I wanted to climb mountains, play in Breath of the Wild, will be great. Oh, Breath of the Wild is no masterpiece. I don't wanna play Breath of the Wild, of the Wild, of the Wild, of the Wild.